Busy last 48 hours around the Miami Heat with UDFAs being signed and them drafting Kasparas Jakucionis on Wednesday night's NBA draft. But on today's show, we're going to look at the latest rumors after the draft heading into NBA free agency week. We'll start with Jonathan Kuminga, and we also have a brief Andrew Wiggins trade update as well. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff. We'll jump right into the latest around Miami and Kuminga because during the NBA draft, when Miami was actually on the clock, the ESPN broadcast brought in Shams Charania, and he dropped a very shocking note. One name to keep an eye on that I'm told the Miami Heat are expected to be a potential suitor for is Warriors restricted free agent Jonathan Kuminga. So Kuminga and a couple other targets potentially for the Heat, whether it's in free agency or trade here over the next week or two. And I'll be honest, we've seen a lot of buzz around Miami being interested in Kuminga from reporters that cover the Golden State Warriors, from people that cover the Miami Heat. This is the first time that the national NBA reporter, Shams Charania, have linked Miami and Kuminga. So when you factor in Warriors people saying it, Heat people kind of saying it, and now Shams says it, yeah, I'm going to start to believe that Kuminga to Miami is something that could really come to fruition. And that's why I'll ask you this on today's show. Do you want Jonathan Kuminga? Type Y for yes or type N for no. I know this is a very divisive player, and a lot of people have strong opinions on it, so let your opinion be known down in the comment section. I just alluded to this, but this is becoming very, very real. And I always kind of just threw it to the side because these reports about the Heat having Kuminga as a fallback option if they didn't get Kevin Durant, I was like, yeah, I won't really think about that now. But now that we're actually here on the precipice of free agency, I do feel like with multiple people saying it, this is something that could really happen. And the reason why I'm triple confirmed on this being a real possibility between Miami and Kuminga is actually because of what Zack Lowe said. And I know that Shams should probably do that for me, but Zack Lowe is very tapped in with Miami. He is. He's actually one of the rare national guys that has the favor of the Heat front office. And Zach Lowe, when speaking about the Heat, said all bets are off with the Kings. Does anyone even want DeMar DeRozan? The Heat have been mentioned, but I think the Heat would be smart to prioritize a Jonathan Kuminga, like a younger guy, ahead of DeRozan. And I think the Heat Kuminga smoke is real. So you got Shams, you got Lowe, you got Warriors people saying it, you got Heat people saying it. So we have to talk about this. And I'll be frank, a week ago I said, no way, Jose. Keep Kuminga away from my team. Be honest, I'm warming up to the idea, and I'll explain why here in a moment. But Kuminga has had an interesting start to his career, right? He was a lottery pick in that draft that Golden State had multiple first-rounders in the lottery, and they could not get really two instrumental pieces. I believe it was Kuminga and Moses Moody in that lottery draft. He got off to an interesting start, but then really kind of flourished in 23-24 before having a little bit of a down 24-25 season, which had him kind of benched. It's the reason why they made the big move to get Jimmy Butler. And I talked with Tyler Smith, the host of Warriors, today here at Chat Sports, and he just completely dogs on Kuminga in terms of his offensive inabilities as well as his defensive IQ not being the highest. And it's hard to really get that pumped up about Kuminga as an offensive player, considering that he really only does one thing right, and that is finishing at the restricted area. You see it there. He shot 71.6% this past season at the restricted area at the rim. That is 5% better than the league average, but he is very bad at shooting from the corner. He had a little pull-up 12-foot game in 23-24, but was bad in that area in 24-25. You see in that little mid-range paint area, 5% lower than league average. Shot 24% on deep twos and an okay 32% on above-the-break threes. The point is, by showing this, the fit on the offensive end of the floor is questionable at best, because if you are making this sign and trade for Jonathan Kuminga, he is going to get a significant chunk of change, at least $20 million per season. So you are likely going to put him in your starting lineup and move Andrew Wiggins in a separate deal. So you would then have Bam, Ware, and Kuminga as your front court. Those are three very questionable shooters, and you're like, well, how is this going to work on the offensive end of the floor if there is real no threat on the perimeter? They're just going to make sure Hero can't beat him from three, and no one's going to be able to go in the paint because it's going to be packed with defenders. More conversation to come here in a second, but make sure you subscribe and join the channel for daily Miami Heat coverage. Plus, it's free. Yeah, you get daily content for free. What else can you ask for? Join the channel as we're going to have top coverage on Miami this upcoming week and beyond with free agency starting. Kuminga's an interesting player because he is a great slasher. Like, he is uber athletic. He's one of the most athletic players in the NBA. He can crash the glass. He can really finish around the rim at times. And the part that really does scare me, though, is that he's a ball stopper. He is. He doesn't move the ball. And I will say, I feel like he was put in a bad situation. I know this is going to be crazy to say this, but Kuminga playing alongside Steph Curry might have been the worst possible thing for him. And I know people are going to be like, well, if he can't work with Kuminga or with Steph Curry's gravitational pull, where is he going to work? Well, the point is with Kuminga, he can't shoot. So if you're playing a 5-out offense that is very reliant on shooting and then making cuts off of that, you're really only going to have to rely on him scoring off the ball as a cutter. And you see it. Like, he's fine shooting and scoring inside 10 feet, 56%. We showed it, 70% at the rim. That's fine. But, oh my, the shooting numbers outside of that is horrible. 35% in pull-up mid-range shots, 14% in pull-up threes, 34.8% in catch-and-shoot threes. That just isn't what his game is. Now, Miami has an exceptional developmental shooting staff. You've seen it with Hero, Duncan, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus. The list goes on and on. Could they do it again with Kuminga? Maybe. And I think the conversation that we got to have here is that in this sign and trade, you have to sign him to a big contract and then give up assets to acquire him as well. In a projected contract from people around the league, and I've heard Greg Sylvander kind of say that he've heard this number, nothing concrete but floated around, a 3-year, $81 million deal, which is, if you can do quick math, $27 million a season. That is more than what Rozier makes right now, and it is about $1 million less than what Andrew Wiggins makes right now. But it's not a contract that will break the bank by any stretch of the imagination. So in this sign and trade idea, this is what I came up with here. The Heat signed Kuminga to a 3-year, $81 million deal. The Warriors can either match that, as he is a restricted free agent, or agree to a sign and trade with Miami. And I think Kyle Anderson and Jaime Jaquez Jr. would ultimately be shipped out to Golden State. We know Kyle Anderson came from Golden State in that Jimmy Butler trade. Jaquez is a West Coast guy, someone the Golden State Warriors could covet. And when you're thinking this from a Miami perspective, Kuminga can't shoot the ball, but is an athletic wing that can crash the glass and maybe give you some on-ball defense. Well, what do these two guys do? I mean, they're kind of the same thing. Kyle can't space the floor. Jaquez can't space the floor. Like, I'll be honest. You're just replacing two guys with a better version of them right now. And much younger, by the way, in Jonathan Kuminga. So I could see why the Heat would want to get rid of those two players if they did bring in Jonathan Kuminga. And I do want this to be clear. Remember, due to NBA rules, in a sign-and-trade, the Warriors, with the new CBA, can only take back 50% of what you give Kuminga in that first year. So if you wanted to do a contract here with Kuminga, float out numbers, Kyle Anderson and Jaime Jaquez Jr. combined to make exactly $13 million. So in that 3-year, $81 million deal, you just either front-load it to where it's a larger first year and a descending contract where it goes like maybe $29 million this year, $27 million, and then $26 million, or something like that, or $29, $27, $25, or you go 26 and above. Like, you can do it in many different ways here, but that is the point of why Kyle Anderson and Jaime Jaquez Jr., I think, would have to be the two players heading to Golden State, and I do believe the Warriors would ultimately be happy with getting Triple J in return for Jonathan Kuminga. So let me know, would you do this trade? Type A for accept or type D for decline. I could argue that you might have to throw in like 1 second-round pick to Golden State, but if they're not planning on keeping him around long-term, they just lose him for nothing, but they also get basically a 1-year expiring contract in Anderson, so it's not guaranteed next year, and a young player in Jaquez. I think they'd be interested in it, but let me know your thoughts down below. I said that I'm warming up to the idea, and if it just cost you Jaime and Kyle Anderson, I'm actually fine with making this move. Is it going to make me think, oh, we're going to win the title? No. But there is a silver lining here. And the reason why I'm fine with it, it's because the Miami Heat would finally be picking a direction. We have complained as content creators, as fans, for so long about this team being stuck between young assets and old veteran players and not going either all in and trading the young guys or trading the veterans to go young. If you go with this group and you bring in Kuminga after taking Jakucionis, you now have a projected starting lineup if you start Yak of 19, 25, 22, 27, and 21. You would have finally picked a direction. And I would just be more or less happy with that. Because if it's a disaster and Kuminga sucks this year, well, guess what? That means you probably stink as a team. You have your unprotected pick in a loaded draft in 2026, and then you only have 2 years left on that deal and 1 year until it becomes an expiring in that 2027-28 NBA season. You would also have Nikola Jovic coming off of the bench, and he's still 22 years of age. So you would be a young team finally heading in a consistent direction. And you would have to assume if you make that move, you would also probably ship off Rozier, ship off Andrew Wiggins, even maybe Duncan Robinson as well, get rid of those 3 large veteran contracts, and even commit more to a younger lineup and a core that we just displayed, which is why that is the one reason I can be sold. All right, let's close out the show with a little bit of an update on Andrew Wiggins to the Los Angeles Lakers. Those rumors got hot on Wednesday afternoon before the first round of the draft. Nothing materialized on Thursday or Wednesday or even Friday, but there are conversations still happening between Miami and Wiggins in going to the Los Angeles Lakers. Anthony Irwin, who originally had all of the reports about Wiggins maybe going to the Lakers, he does cover Los Angeles on Wednesday's draft day. He tweeted out at the end of the second round on Thursday night. You see it 9 p.m. Eastern time. The Lakers do not have any more picks for the second round. They traded up to grab a Thiero from Arkansas, which Miami did that, to be honest. But they are still active on the trade market. Calls are out to Miami, Portland, and Utah. Can't speak on what they would do with Portland and Utah. I'd probably guess they're trying to get DeAndre Ayton or Robert Williams from the Blazers. Utah, maybe Walker Kessler. But we know Miami is going to be in discussion to try to get Andrew Wiggins, someone they believe would fit next to LeBron, Austin Reeves, and Luka Doncic extremely well. And I'll be honest, I think he does as well. You go LeBron at the 4, Wiggins at the 3, Reeves at the 2, Luka at the 1, and then they figure out their center. I mean, it's an interesting starting lineup that's probably a top 5 team in the Western Conference next year. The point is this. I think we'll ultimately see Andrew Wiggins being traded. I don't know who else could be interested in Wiggins if it's not the Los Angeles Lakers, but I do not see him returning to this group. He has 2 years left on his deal with a player option next year. He is not expected to opt out of that player option because I don't see him performing well enough this season to where he could bypass $30 million next season. And it doesn't feel like he wants to be in Miami regardless. I don't think he ever wanted to be. You saw him miss half the games in the regular season. He performed extremely poorly in the playoffs. So I believe Miami and Wiggins are just going to go their separate ways potentially. If they do make a trade with the Lakers, I would probably look at Rui Hachimura and Gabe Vincent coming in return. A $17 million expiring in Hachimura, $11 million expiring with Gabe Vincent. I think Rui would be a good fit off the bench in that front court for Miami. The only question would be, do you get draft capital alongside those 2 contracts? You could get multiple second rounders maybe to add to that asset collection, or you could try to get a pick swap in the first round as well. But the point is, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because when these moves are finalized and get reported, we will react. We will also be live for NBA Free Agency. So subscribe and join us.